Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session on the OnePlan release notes for the September 25th release. If you haven't already done so, go check out Screen Steps and you can see all of the different updates that we'll be going through today. There are a lot of different updates. Most of them were kind of smaller, minor things, some usability things, as well as some performance updates, and we'll go through and demo the ones that are able to be shown. So the first kind of area of updates was around the work planner. Within the work planner, there were multiple improvements that were made. The first one was around the Project Pro desktop publisher. So what that does is that lets you publish in Microsoft Project desktop schedules into the OnePlan work planner. Nothing really to show here per se, but essentially we've made multiple updates to that. So make sure you download the newest version. One of the key updates that was made was when you're publishing and you're using certain different types of tasks in Project Desktop, Project's going to calculate things a little bit differently than how OnePlan does. And so there's been some updates there to make that work a little bit more better as you might expect it to. The next thing is around work item choice fields. So I'm going to go into the admin area here and go into fields. And essentially, what you can now do is for each choice value in a choice field, you can specify a number. And that particular number is going to let you can be used for calculations. So if you wanted to do things like generate prioritization scores, for example. So if I come to my work fields and I'll go to a choice field here, like say impact, and edit that and edit the choices. Right next to all the choice values, there's an area here that has a little number entry. And so you can say, okay, critical is going to equal 5, and high is going to equal 4, and medium is 3, and low is 2, or whatever numbers you might want to assign to these. And then you can use those in calculated fields. So if impact equals critical, then 5, and then multiply that by, something else. If risk equals this, then 3, and multiply those together and get a total score, those types of things. Or on the Agile side of the world, maybe you want to use those to calculate WSJF, or weighted shortest job first scores, things like that. It just allows you to convert those choice values essentially into a number, which you can use for calculations, generally for scoring things. The next area that we updated in this particular release was the portfolios module. The portfolios module lets you do things like view a list of all of your different portfolio items, projects, programs, epics, whatever they may be, things that you're tracking within there. And there's multiple different views of that, the list view, the Kanban board, et cetera. And so we made kind of multiple updates in many different areas within there. So the first one is, if I come back here into portfolios, there was an option that was added in the last release called reorganize. And so what reorganize allows you to do is, especially if you are using hierarchical plans, so you can see here, for example, I have portfolios, and under those portfolios are programs, and under those are different projects and epics, but this could be any hierarchy that you might want. If you ever need to move something around or change the type of plan, you can use the reorganize button. So I could come to this project here, for example, and click reorganize on it. And I could just change the type. I need to change this project into an epic or into a program, or whatever it might be, another plan type. The other thing that you can do though is you can reparent it. So right now that project is under the world-class customer support program. But if I hit this little edit button here, you'll see that this interface has changed. The main thing is there's a search in here now. So if I type in what I'm looking for, it will start to go and find that for me and filter this down. So if you have a long list of a lot of different, say, projects, programs, etc., it makes it a lot easier to find that. So then you can pick what you want to move it to, select that, say select parent, reorganize, and then it will update accordingly. The next new capability that was added within here is there's now a refresh option. So if other people are working in here, and or if certain things change, numbers roll up in total costs and so on and so forth, and you just want to get kind of a fresh view of the whole portfolio, you used to have to click the refresh up in the top in your browser here, which would reload everything. Now there's a little refresh button right here that you can click, and it will refresh just the portfolio grid here in the middle, and therefore it's a lot quicker. So it just kind of saves you some time if and when you ever need to refresh the grid. In the portfolio Kanban, we also made an update within here. The main one is that You'll notice that right now I'm showing my cards in a very large format, and so I'm using the large option right now. But if I change this to medium or small, the cards kind of get much smaller. And so you can go all the way down to very small in here. And what you'll notice is if you have it turned on, and I only have it on for some of my different plan types in this particular environment, it's kind of a testing environment, but if you have it turned on, you'll see that instead of trying to show the title of these, and by the way, if you ever hover, it will give you the full title, but you can't really see much. All I see is an A. You'll notice on the ones where I have it turned on that there's 13 here instead. So when I hover, I'll still see the full title, but what we can do is instead we can show the IDs of these numbers. And that just makes it a little bit easier to identify what's what without having to go and hover over them, especially when you're in those smaller views there. So that can be useful. Next, if I come back to my portfolio list view here, there's a new export option. So previously, if you wanted to get all of this data out of here and into, say, Excel, then you would have to connect up to the OData feed, the reporting feed that's behind OnePlan to get that information. That takes a few setup steps. Now all you have to do if you want to export this out to Excel is you can come here, hit the drop down, and you can export this out to XLSX, XML, CSV, TSV, or HTML. So if I wanted to do XLSX, I select that, it creates the file, and then I can pop that open, and it's going to give me all that information that was in that grid view there within Excel format, and then I can do whatever I want to do with it from that point, create charts or whatever it may be, share this with other people, etc. All right, that's it for the portfolios module for this release. The next area where we made some updates is the status reports. And so the status reports allow you to come in, and for any particular project, you can set up a schedule for these guys to happen, but you can also come in here and you can create them on demand. The idea is that over time, we might create status reports for this particular project, say once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, however frequently you need to. And then you can come back and see the old status reports and or show trends of how you're doing better or worse over time on these particular projects, as well as allow people to put in some narrative in here around how's the project doing. But you'll see that this particular status report has already been submitted. That all previously worked just the way it still does. The new thing is if it hasn't been approved yet, there is a recall option in here. So I can come in, I can say I want to recall this, like maybe I forgot to do something, like I forgot to key in my accomplishments for this particular status report. So I can then key those in, resubmit it, and let it go back through the particular process here and send that to whoever the approver is for this particular status report. Once it's approved, though, it will still be locked. You won't be able to recall it at that point, but it does let you recall it until it gets approved if you need to make any kind of last minute changes or forgot to do something, whatever it may be. All right, the next update is within the plan level fields. Not really much to show here, but within plan level fields, you can do calculations within there. So if I come into fields and I go into any particular field in here, you can set calculations on these different plan level fields. And if you do that, within your if statements, you can now use the plan type field in the calculation. So what does that mean? You can do if plan type equals project, then do this calculation. If plan type equals epic, then do this calculation. If portfolio, then this calculation, so on and so forth. So that previously wasn't available to be used in those if statements, but it now is. So that kind of opens up some of the possibilities of what you can calculate now per plan type. The next area here is the OData reporting. Nothing really to show here, but behind the scenes, there's an OData feed that you can connect up to with, as I mentioned, Excel or Power BI or other different reporting tools. And so there's two different updates that have been made to that. The first is in the plan table, the editor field is now available. So for each of these different plans within your portfolio, if you wanted to see who was the last person to edit that plan, you could add that editor field into your report and you'd be able to see Matthew Willie last edited the Fabricam project, and previously we added the modified time, the last time it was modified, date and time, so you could see, okay, Matthew Willie edited it, and the last time he edited it was 10 days ago. So you can kind of see things like how frequently people are updating their plans, as an example. The other thing is plan level user fields, so fields like manager or executive sponsor or different plan level user fields that you have created on your plans, you can now report on those easier. It used to be that it would just show you the resources ID within the plans table. It will now actually show you their name as well, so that you don't have to try to join the plans table to the resources table to pull in their name. So it just makes it a little bit easier for you to do that type of reporting. The next area that we made improvements in was the resource scheduler. The main thing that we did to the resource scheduler in this particular release is around performance. Previously, if you had thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of tasks in here, and if you don't have resource manager setting up, meaning when you come in and you have permissions, you see every single resource in the system, which could be thousands of resources, and each resource could have hundreds of tasks possibly. It would take a good amount of time for that to load if you were trying to load all of this data and or sometimes timeout. And so we've made multiple performance improvements in here in the resource scheduler, so now even when loading large amounts of data, it will be much, much faster than it was previously. With that said, we still recommend turning on the resource manager functionality, so when you come in, you'll only see the resources that you are the manager of, essentially the ones that you care about more, so it doesn't have to load everything every time. And/or you can always go to the resource center and select the resources you want first, and then open the resource scheduler from there, and then it'll only load the data for those resources as well. So those are all things that kind of little tricks can help to make it even faster. Next, previously, there was always a time off feature in here, or at least there has been for a long time, so you can come in and you can add time off. But previously, you could only add time off for yourself. Now, if you're an owner, meaning you have permissions to all of the resources in the resource pool, you can come in and you can add time off for other people. So for example, if I wanted to add time off for Gavin Belson here, I could select that, say it's a holiday, put in a start end date, how many hours, so on and so forth, and then save that and add time off for other people, not just for myself. Next, in the financial planner, we've made a couple improvements. So if I go into a particular plan here, and then go into the financials section. The main updates were really around fiscal periods. So we had introduced not too long ago the ability to track and manage fiscal periods within here. But now there's a couple updates that have been made that makes that a little bit easier. My internet's acting up on me here. Give me one sec. Essentially, when you were using fiscal periods in the financial planner, and you clicked on some of the quick links like this year or this quarter or whatever it may be, it would take you still to this calendar year. So now if you come in and you select this year and you have fiscal year set up, it will show you that fiscal year or last year or whatever it might be, meaning instead of showing January through December, let's say your fiscal year started in July, when you click on this year, it'll show July through June. And so it just makes it a little bit easier and nice to use when you click on these different links here that'll kind of take you to that fiscal part of the year, not just the calendar year as it previously did. All right, the next updates were around comments, and there's kind of multiple different areas in the system where you can utilize comments. One of the areas is here at the plan level, another is at the work item level, but essentially if I was to comment on this plan, you'll see there's a little comment stream here, and I can keep entering things and adding those in. If I accidentally typed something, fat fingered it, misspelled something, whatever it might be, and I want to remove that comment and then redo it, there's now a remove option in here. So you just click remove. It says, are you sure? If you say yes, it'll remove that, and then from there you can go and add it back or do whatever you need to do within comments and or other capabilities. On the same line as comments, we've also made some improvements to the alerts and notifications within OnePlan. Many people may not have noticed this because it was a little bit hidden, but if you were to click on your name and click on notifications, it would show you all of the notifications that you've recently got in the system. As these are also followed with email notifications. So every time you get an email notification, you also get an in-system notification if you have these turned on. But it was a little bit hidden. And you didn't always, it wasn't very visible of when you had new notifications that you hadn't seen yet, so on and so forth. So what we've done is we've added this little bell icon here. And so that brings it to the forefront a little bit more. So if I click on that, I can see my notifications here. And also, if I have any new notifications waiting for me that I haven't yet seen, it'll show a number there of how many. So it's just kind of a little visual cue to say, hey, you have 3 notifications waiting for you. And you can click on that, see those, and so on and so forth. We're going to continue to work on the notifications and add some capability there. But that's kind of the next step forward in this particular release. All right. Lastly, then, from an admin perspective, there's a new capability when you're creating plan level detail pages, and specifically when you add in a subgrid. So that might be the related work items to a particular project, or say the projects under a particular program, any sort of subgrid that you might add onto the page. And so if you go into plan details, and I'll go to say the programs form, details form, and scroll way down here to the bottom, you'll see I have a subgrid here called initiatives. So it's going to show all the related projects and epics in this particular environment that are related to this program. And that all works fine. And if you ever want to remove that, you can drag and drop it and move it back to the side over here. But what you'll notice is if you create a new one, like a new table or child plans or whatever it may be, so I'll say I want to show the child plans under this, and I can call it test. And I want to show all child plans. You can pick a lookup field that you want to do it based off of, and then whatever columns that you want to show in here. So I just want to show the name of this and maybe some other fields, whatever. You can set this up how you want to set it, hit add, and when you do that, down on the bottom right here, it shows up as that's this new table that I just created called tests. And so if I want to add that to the form, I can simply drag and drop it over here. But if I ever want to get rid of this, there wasn't previously a way to do so. So now there is. There's just this little trash button here. So I go, oh, actually, I didn't create it the way I wanted to, or I don't need it anymore, whatever it might be. Then I can just clean that up by hitting the little trash icon, and it'll go away forever. So just an extra option there to delete those to keep this a little bit cleaner. And that's it. That's kind of all the main key items. There are a bunch of other kind of small fixes, and there were some bug fixes here and there, things like that. But those were all the main items that were in this monthly release. We'll see you again next month to go through all the new items that we're working on right now. Have a great day. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.